I don't think Ken Rashad has any weapons with him tonight, so this should be a calm show. Welcome to the Roundtable. We got the full crew with us tonight. We got Chris Stevens. What's your subhead?
Oh, Libra season, 9/25, which of course is today.
It's Chris's birthday today. Happy birthday, Chris.
Thank you.
He's the ripe old age of
43.
43 years old. Okay. Not a gray hair on him.
Oh, it's some in the that's because I shaved my head, but there's some in the beard though. Yeah. We aging around here. We aging gracefully though. Glad to be here. Glad to be here with you guys tonight. We got a lot to talk about too.
Jared Hoffman's here. Team Tiffany as always.
Gang.
Ken Rashad here as well. Fresh off the high of Grambling winning the Super Bowl last Saturday. And then we got the Jaguar Journal himself, Mr. Reggie Flood. Big time Reggie Flood.
No longer the Jaguar Journal. Yeah, no longer the Jaguar Journal.
Oh, no longer the Jaguar Journal.
I'm in the building.
He big time now.
Yeah.
Guess we got a nice show for you
big
tonight.
Time sports, the sports report, the inside the game. I got about 5 or 6 other things going on.
Yeah, Reggie stay busy, man.
Yeah.
Reggie stay busy.
Yeah.
Tom Jordan ain't got nothing on him.
I don't know why we kind of sounded like a Future song, man. Like we all modulated and everything. You guys are coming in and out. It's a little bit better now, though.
Okay. Well.
Okay.
Let me make sure my stuff is together.
Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Now we go.
Yeah, you're good.
Now we're good. We're good.
All right, cool.
We're good now.
So tonight, as always, we're going to look ahead to the games of the weekend. A lot of big, important games. Conference players are going to start for a lot of schools this week in full force in the CIAA and the SWAC and the MEAC and the SIAC. And Jared Hoffman, our intrepid D2 analyst, every week he comes up with the list of 5 games we should watch for the week. And this week, he's got some intriguing ones, to say the least. Shaw versus Virginia Union, Fayetteville State versus Virginia State, Norfolk State versus North Carolina Central, coming off that beat down of A&T. Fort Valley State going to play Savannah State in what could be a sneaky good game. And the game of the week is Prairie View A&M versus Grambling State at the State Fair Classic down in Dallas. Fellas, what do we think about this slate? Starting with the man who put it together, Jared Hoffman.
Well, there's a lot of D2 games. I know people call me the D2 expert. I'm not an expert, but I do cover a lot of D2 football. But the first 2 games, Shaw, Virginia Union, and Fayetteville State, Virginia State. Union and Virginia State are basically playing for their CIAA championship lives right now. They're 0-1. They both are coming off losses in their conference openers against Virginia State lost to Winston-Salem State and Virginia Union lost to Johnson C. Smith. So neither team can afford to go down 0-2, but they got some hefty competition coming there to their home field. Shaw is coming off a drubbing of Lincoln, and Fayetteville State thoroughly beat Elizabeth City State. So those teams coming into their homes with momentum. And yeah, they're basically playing to keep themselves alive. If they go down 0-2, they're gonna basically have to run the table for the rest of the season. And with the schedules that they have going forward, including a matchup against each other, you don't want to have to be put in that position. North Carolina Central and Norfolk State. Obviously, North Carolina Central is going to come into this game as the favorite, having beaten North Carolina A&T in the way that they did. But don't sleep on Norfolk State. They have a great running game. You know, their offense is starting to click a bit. They're coming off a big win against Virginia Military Institute, so they're riding a high of that win. But North Carolina Central looks like they're in rare air right now, and I'm just curious to see how Norfolk State, if they're able to give them a challenge, North Carolina Central, if they're able to give them a challenge. And I think this could be a sneaky good game, even though North Carolina Central is the heavy favorite, and I do have them winning. Fort Valley State and Savannah State is another sneaky game that I think could potentially be a game of the weekend caliber game. Fort Valley State ended the 3-game losing streak against Savannah State last year, and they are in a log jam of 7 teams that are 1-1 in conference play. So I think this is a game where both teams are trying to get out of that crowd of teams that are 1-1. This is one of 2 games between teams that have 1-1 conference records in the SIAC. Benedict and Morehouse is the other game this weekend, and I think Fort Valley State had a very good performance against Delta State last week. Savannah State beat Tuskegee, and so I think that could be a sneaky good game. And then Prairie View A&M and Grambling State. To be quite honest, this is just the best possible chance we have of having a competitive SWAC conference game this weekend. Obviously Florida A&M and Alabama A&M has been rescheduled for Thanksgiving weekend, so that won't go down. I'm blanking on the other conference games that are happening this weekend, but this is the one that I think that has the best chance of being competitive. Prairie View A&M, this is win or go home for Prairie View A&M. They're already 0-2 in division play. They lost to Texas Southern. They lost to Southern last week, so they're playing for their conference championship lives as well. And they're going against the Grambling State team that, sorry, Kendrick, beat Jackson State thoroughly. And this is just going to be a do or die game for Prairie View A&M. They need a big performance, and that Grambling State defense, they are on a fever. They're on riding high right now, so they have a tough task ahead of them. So that's my slate for this week's games to watch.
Yeah, Reggie, I want to ask you about the State Fair Classic. As Jared mentioned, Prairie View was in a hole after dropping the first 2 SWAC games. They face a Grambling team coming off a big win on Saturday. How do you see this playing out, not only for Saturday, but just as what it means for like the SWAC West moving forward?
I think that watching Grambling last week, I wasn't quite sure if they were for real, but the team that I watched, they are for real. And I think the State Fair Classic, I just think Grambling is the better team after seeing both teams play. Prairie View, they are a talented team. I just don't think they have it all together, and they don't have enough pieces to be able to compete with Grambling for a full 4 quarters. I'm sure some emotion will be involved in that game, and if Grambling coming off a big game has an emotional letdown, then Prairie View could get in and maybe hop on them early. But if Grambling comes out and plays like they played last week, Prairie View doesn't stand much of a chance. I just don't think they're good enough.
Yeah, they really blew that game last Saturday. They had a chance to beat Southern. They got down to the 1-yard line. A penalty backed them up. In overtime, they couldn't even score. So, yeah, that was a devastating loss for them. I don't think they're going to recover just based on what you said with the strength of the SWAC West. Even though nothing's been decided yet, they have to win this game against Grambling on Saturday, or the season is pretty much over as it stands.
Yes.
Ken, your alma mater's in this game, the State Fair Classic. How confident are you that they can handle business against Prairie View on Saturday?
I'm confident. But to be quite honest with you, and I don't necessarily want to shift from your question, but to me, I find it pretty. I find it pretty ironic that Prairie View's, given what they've done up to this point, I find it pretty ironic that here we are, maybe 4 games in, and PV could potentially, depending on how this, if they lose Saturday, they could potentially, the season could be over for PV. 4 games or 4 is this week 5? Week 5, 5 games into the season, PV season could potentially be over. And I wish there were some PV folks on here, because I thought about that. They lost to Texas Southern. Southern was the conference game, and yet it makes you wonder. Is the Labor Day Classic really worth playing the first game of the year? Is that something that you really want to stick to? Now, it used to be a true classic where they played it on a neutral site every year, but now it's just a home and home, and they still call it the Labor Day Classic. And given what's riding up to this point, now granted, in Texas Southern's case, everything is fine, but in PV's case, I mean, literally, the season for them could be for all intents and purposes over, or at the very least, they would have to kind of like, have some things to happen and then obviously continue to win out the rest of the way. But I just find that more ironic than anything else. But with respect to Reggie's point, Grambling by 60.
Grambling by 60. Okay. Grambling by 60.
The one
Chris,
thing I think we
go ahead, Reggie.
we could we could talk about this weekend. I'm sorry, I mean to interrupt, but one thing is just a point. One thing I think we discovered this weekend is that basically anybody in the SWAC can beat anybody in the SWAC. This is the league is a lot of parity. Anybody in the SWAC on a given week can beat anybody else. So it's no lock, especially in the Western Division. There's no lock in the Western Division.
Yeah, that's interesting to say because I don't know how Bethune-Cookman wins a game. I don't see how they win the game. Based on what happened last week against Clark. I don't see how it happens. But you never know. There's a swag. But Chris, which games stand out for you this weekend?
I have to see if North Carolina Central is really going to go ahead and put a stranglehold on the MEAC. Yes, it's the first conference game. And it's a neutral site game, mind you, because this is the 40th annual Circle City Classic. Shouts out to Naptown, Indianapolis, Indiana, where they'll be playing at Lucas Oil Stadium. So a MEAC game on a neutral site. How novel. But this is a chance for Central to prove that they are indeed the top dog or top eagle, as it were, in the MEAC. And this is not going to be an easy task because Norfolk State has some big hogs on both sides of the line. So this is going to be a battle of the trenches. Make no mistake about it. Norfolk State's line, I think, averages like 305 or something like that, somewhere along those lines. For an HBCU football team, that's huge. And the fact that they have guys, Kevon King, Xavier, I can't remember Xavier's last name, but I know Kevon King is their lead back. Those guys, either one of those guys can go for 100 behind that line. So if they can get the running game going and keep Walker Harrison that offense off the field, and Jalen Daniels had a pretty good performance against, VMI stinks, so take that for what it's worth. But he still played very well last week, in the quarterback position. And I want to make a point during the MEAC coaches call this week, because if you guys remember, Otto Coons was the preseason MEAC quarterback, which was basically by default because he was the only senior, and he had a NCAA issue that kept him out for the first 4 games. We working on week 6 now. Jalen Daniels is still the quarterback. So someone in the MEAC coaches conference, one of the media members asked, who's your do you have a 2 quarterback system here? And Dawson Odoms didn't blink an eye. He said Jalen Daniels is our quarterback. So it's Jalen Daniels' show from here on out. And he's going to have a chance to prove that
Which means Otto Coons. Which means Otto Coons is going to be playing. If I know Coach Odoms, that means Otto Coons will be playing in this game against North Carolina Central. I guarantee.
Maybe he will. I just found it very interesting how resolute he was in that. Coach Odoms is you can't get a read on him. He's just he's just very deadpan, matter of fact. But there was a a legit, I don't want to say annoyance or irritation, but he was adamant that Jalen Daniels was the starting quarterback. So as Reggie Flood said, take that for what it's worth, because Coach Odoms, he does things his way. So maybe we will see Otto on Saturday. Who knows? But Daniels has played a lot better in recent weeks. He played well. Like I said, VMI is like bottom barrel of FCS, but it's still
I was
FCS.
just about to bring that up. Do we take anything from that win last week? Anything? I understand VMI hadn't won a game since. Did they win? How many games did they win last season? They didn't win many, right?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay, I know they haven't won a game at all so far this year, and I guess I wonder, does winning a game like that boost any confidence for them going into this game with Central? Do we take anything from that, other than the fact that maybe you can say that they beat a team that they were supposed to beat? But
VMI went 5-6 last year.
Okay.
Here's my perspective. Rather
Last year were better than Norfolk.
Yeah. Here's my perspective. I'd rather it be VMI than VUL.
Come on. Wow, Chris. Yeah, okay. that definitely ain't saying a lot, but I hear you.
Let's be real about it. I mean, and I like Morgan State, but they had no business playing VUL last week. I mean, yes, it was good that Morgan State got a win. It was good they finally, showed off for the home crowd. But I really would like for our Division 1s to stop playing VUL. Division 2s, fine.
Yeah.
That's closer to the level. But Central has VUL this year. I think a SWAC school has VUL this year. And of course they just played.
Nobody should have them.
Nobody. I mean, Division 2.
Nobody should have Bingo Long and the Traveling All-Star. You shouldn't.
He took it back with that one, boy. If you never seen that movie, you need to do yourself a favor and check it out. But yes. yeah, VUL. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I wrote a story about just how poor that program was run. But yes, I'd rather have Norfolk State beat VMI than VUL because at least that's sort of comparable competition. But Central, again, this is their chance to prove to everybody in the MEAC and maybe even send a little bit of a message to the SWAC, even though they already beat Alabama State. Just to send a little message to anybody that's thinking about coming out of the SWAC that when you come to Atlanta, you're going to have hell waiting for you. So, I mean, Trey Oliver, he literally this week announced a fundraiser, a $66 fundraiser. A $66
fundraiser. For what?
Because they scored 66 points on
the 66.
Yes.
Point.
Yes, the 66 that they put on A&T. Yeah. He literally did a video on social media today talking about he would match the first $5,000 of anybody who donated $66 to the North Carolina Central Athletic Department.
There is no better petty than HBCU petty.
None.
Yeah, none.
When I saw that video, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. But this is Trey Oliver. This is who he is. And he stood on business in the MEAC coaches call. He said, I'm not out to, run a score up on anybody, but I'm going to defend my university. I'm going to say, I'm going to give you guys more than coach speak, which kind of was like a veiled shot at everybody else in the MEAC coaches call. But, this is who Trey Oliver is. So this is Central's chance to really just show everybody that, yes, the MEAC once again comes through Durham, and you guys are going to have a hard time taking that trophy from us.
Yeah, I will. To that point, Chris, I want to ask Reggie something. Dawson Odoms is an ex-Southern guy, and since he transitioned to Norfolk State, hadn't been very good. And as someone who knows Dawson better than anybody on this panel, why hasn't he been successful at Norfolk State, in your opinion, Reggie? And is this the big game he finally wins there?
No, he's never going to win the big game ever anywhere. That's just what it is. But I think the reason it worked at Southern was because Southern was kind of tailor-made for him to just keep it on the rails. I mean, if you went out and you did any kind of recruiting and you did any kind of coaching, you could kind of have some success at Southern. It's not the same at Norfolk. He actually had to build a program at Norfolk. And it's Norfolk State. And he just – a coach who, like him, who is a coach who is not his thing is, hey, I just want to be competitive from year in and year out, and every 3 or 4 years maybe we compete for championships. At Southern, he could do that. At Norfolk State, where it's pretty much it's the bottom of the barrel and you're trying to build the program up, that's not going to work there. It's not going to work there, and I just don't think he's the type of coach that can pull that off. I mean, that's just in my interaction with him and watching the way that he does. Not saying that he's not a good coach. I just don't think he's a coach that he's not a transformative coach. He's not going to turn a program around in that sense. So I think that's why he's had so many issues at Norfolk State.
Yeah, Jared?
Question for the panel. Who's gone first? Dawson Odoms or Connell Maynard?
Ooh.
Connell Maynard.
There's a lot of presumption in there, but
if we were to suspect that either of those guys were on the hot seat?
Well, both of them are. I think it's safe to say they're both on the hot seat, but I can tell you now.
Who would potentially
look,
be?
I think A&M is ready to get. I know A&M fans are like really tired of Connell Maynard, and for a man who openly states that he only gets paid to win SWAC games, but yet he ain't winning SWAC games, then that's
a problem.
That's a problem.
A huge problem. Here's the thought.
Yes.
Here's the thought. It's early, and we'll probably talk about Division II a little bit later on. But I can tell you now, if Teddy Keaton does the improbable, which doesn't look so improbable at the moment, and got Clark Atlanta to the SIAC championship, Paul Bryant is an athletic director who is a mover and a shaker, and he believes in getting things done. So I can tell you now, he may be successful in pulling this off. He may not. But if Teddy Keaton wins the SIAC and Alabama A&M somehow falls behind not just Jackson, FAMU, and Alabama State, but somehow Bethune-Cookman or Mississippi Valley State, he's going to make that phone call. He's gonna make that phone call to Atlanta and say, "Hey, well, we don't have red turf. I mean, shout out to them Pyro Panthers, Bick and Back being Bull and all of that. But if you want to come and win at a Division I level, Huntsville ain't but a hop, skip, and a jump away." And Teddy Keaton, who coached at Stillman once upon a time, so he's familiar with Alabama, so he could recruit there. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Clark Atlanta has that successful of a season and Alabama A&M sticks it up that Connell Maynard's out the door and Paul Bryant makes a play for Teddy Keaton. Not saying it'll happen, not saying it'll go through, but it just wouldn't surprise me. It just wouldn't surprise me if that sort of came together. That's my hot take for this week. It just wouldn't surprise me.
Let me tell you
he's got kind of a stay of execution this week because do the acts of God. Do the acts of
hurricane
God. He doesn't have to worry about trying to take an L this weekend.
Let me tell you what. To that point, Paul Bryant better take a number because Teddy Keaton getting a lot of calls this offseason. Mm-hmm. Alabama A&M ain't about to be the only team calling if they were to move on from Connell Maynard. Teddy Keaton is getting a lot of calls this offseason.
Yeah, speaking of Teddy Keaton and Clark Atlanta, Jared Hoffman earlier today did an interview with who many think is the best quarterback in Black college football, David Wright III. You can check it out on our YouTube page. It's up now, where David talks about the season Clark Atlanta has, his personal success he's had, started the season with 7 touchdowns, and led a remarkable comeback last weekend against Bethune-Cookman. So check that out when you guys get a chance. But I do want to transition back to the SWAC and talk about a school that's been pretty disappointing, kind of shockingly disappointing considering they were picked to do a lot of great things this year. And that's the Alcorn State Braves. They're 1-3 heading into SWAC play. Their SWAC opener is against Mississippi Valley State, who's defeated. They're 0-4 coming this game. But on Monday, listening to Cedric Thomas, their head coach, he mentioned they need to grow up. Like a lot of their players are young, and he called them immature. They needed to work on that. They were picked to win the SWAC West, and they hadn't played like it. Their offense is second to last in the SWAC, average only 13 points a game. Their defense is giving up over 200 yards per game on the ground. Thomas talked about how they hadn't tackled very well, hadn't been very disciplined. This is very surprising coming from an Alcorn State team that historically, at least in the last 6 to 8 years, have been one of the most disciplined teams and one of the top teams in defense in the SWAC. And I'll put up a quote that Thomas said about his team. When I asked him Monday, what were the issues with the team, he said immaturity. Some of the mistakes are being made by freshmen. We have a redshirt freshman who fumbles the ball on the 1 yard line. We have a freshman punter who drops the ball twice in a row, even though we work on punting every day. It's just maturity. Some of those guys have to hurry up and step up. Whatever the deal is, I'm not doing a good enough job doing the practice sessions for them to do it in the game. So yeah, some pretty strong words from Cedric Thomas, their head coach. Reggie, what do you make of Alcorn State struggle? Is it just because they're playing FBS opponents, or just like a sign that this team isn't
No,
the school that everybody thought they were going to be going into the season?
well, I never understood how they got voted to be the number one team in the West in the first place. They have no quarterback to speak of. They had no quarterback. They were relying on defense, and they had so many missing pieces. So I was like, why are they? It just seemed like they were a familiar name. Not to mention they don't have Fred McNair, who, by the way, is on the bluff at Southern, and he says he's never been more happy. But but I never understood why. I never understood why they were the number one team in the West anyway. But I think this is just who they are this year. And I think looking at those statements, not only does his team need to mature, but coach may need to mature a level too. When it comes to throwing your players under the bus when you're having those kind of issues, that's like he said later on that came back to him coaching, but that should have been your lead, that you need to coach better. And you're calling out freshman players. That's not a good look. That's a sign of immaturity on the coaching staff. And they say teams take on the personality of their coach. So that may be something that he needs to look at himself. But I didn't understand. I think this is who Alcorn is. I mean, they went and played McNeese and pretty much got embarrassed against the McNeese team that we know is a mediocre team, and they beat Southern, true enough. But the way that they beat Alcorn was a lot.
They didn't beat them 42-14 though.
And I hate
Alcorn beat them last year too.
This is a much different.
But who was coaching?
Huh?
Yeah, Fred McNair was coaching. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. This is so much different. Yeah, this is so much different. And I just think this is who Alcorn is going to be. This is who they are this year. And even with that being said, like I said earlier in the show, anybody in the SWAC West can beat anybody in the SWAC West. Like, there's no gimme game in the SWAC West. So Alcorn could very well not be good for these couple of weeks and then come back and upset the top two teams on the Western Division.
Okay.
But how concerning is it that they don't have an offense right now? They only had an offense against Edward Waters.
Oh, that's always concerning. I mean, but I didn't expect them to have offense. They didn't have a quarterback. That's why I say I don't understand why in today's game, you don't have a quarterback. You don't have a real offensive threat. You're totally rebuilding on offense, but they voted as number one in the West. That did not make sense to me. And I think it's being proven out now, and it's still not making sense. And they had a lot of losses on defense, which we're seeing because they are virtually unable to stop the run. So I don't understand how they were voted to be number one in the West with all the holes that they had on defense and the fact that they came in without a starting quarterback. And it's not like they had a couple of guys with potential. They didn't even have a guy. They didn't have a guy that you could really look at and say, hey, we expect this guy to be the starting quarterback. We expect him to be the leader. No, it was a basic toss-up to two guys who turned out to be mediocre at best. So that's why this is not surprising to me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I was going to say, Ken actually told Cedric Thomas at SWAC Media today that Alcorn had been voted number one, and Cedric Thomas was like, "What? What do you mean we voted number one?"
He was surprised. He was surprised. So I'm going to do a Jared Hoffman.
But it's a lot of breaking up. I can barely hear everything.
Yeah, well, you're kind of breaking up too. But so let me do a Jared Hoffman then. Okay, so they play Valley this weekend. Who wins that game? There are a lot of folks who are actually under the impression that Valley could potentially win this game. They're playing in Itabuna, and it's a rivalry. It's a lot of emotion. But given what we know of Alcorn, given what we've seen of Alcorn, and given no disrespect, but Valley's Valley, but we've seen some fight in Valley based upon who we saw them against Tennessee State. They were completely overpowered. Who did they play last week? Nichols. 6-0. But there are some folks who really believe that Valley can be problematic for Alcorn. So you guys willing to make a prediction on that?
Before I make a prediction, I just want to say one thing about Coach Thomas's quotes. The late, great Pat Morita, a.k.a. Mr. Miyagi, from Karate Kid, said, "There's no such thing as a bad student, only bad teachers." So if a coach is willing to throw his kids under the bus, his or her kids under the bus, then that coach has to go and check themselves and figure out what they're doing wrong. Because you can get mad at the players for messing up all day long, but you got to wonder if it's something in your methods that tells them that it's okay to mess up, or that you're not teaching them thoroughly enough that they get the instructions that they do what they need to do. Just wanted to make that point. As far as the prediction, I still think Alcorn wins. I mean, it's going to be ugly, but I think this might be one of those old when the New York Jets and the Indianapolis Colts used to have those 9-6 and 10-7 type of games. I think that's what it might end up being. But I mean, as much as I want to see Valley turn it around, I still think that Kendrick Wade's team is super young. I mean, that's still a young squad over there, and it'll be in it as well. So I just feel like for this year, I mean, if you were to make me pick this in 2025, maybe Mississippi Valley State wins, but I think for now, Alcorn pulls it out. But it's not going to be an easy one.
Yeah, I'm a Chris. I got Alcorn State winning, man. Like I don't. Valley got a long way to go, man. They play on the new
You're not
turf.
falling for the hype, huh?
No, like who hypes up Valley? I mean, like maybe seriously, like
When you
it's not
guys
an
call,
offense.
when you calling on me because everything is so modulated, I can't hear.
Okay.
Oh no, no, I'm just talking about who hyping up Valley, but no, like they have a long way to go in their football program to be favored in any game. They may make them competitive for a half, but they don't have the numbers or experience to beat a team like Alcorn, despite the fact that Alcorn State's been struggling all year.
Yeah.
This is going to be an ugly game. This is going to be very, very ugly, no matter how we slice it. I guess Alcorn. Like this is so disappointing. It's so they have been so disappointing, and even the fact that Malachi Langley, who I thought would have not Malachi Langley, forgot his last name, but I thought that they were going to have some guys on their defensive unit that were going to step up and have big seasons this year, and it just hasn't materialized. So sure, Alcorn wins, but doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. You get a SWAC win, so that helps. But
you still struggling, Flood?
Yeah, I'm still struggling to catch it, but I'm hearing Peace by Philly. Yeah, I can hear you clearly, Ken.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's kind of buffering on this end as well, but go ahead.
Okay, I'll say this. I'm going to pick Valley, and I picked Valley for strictly this reason. They got a new field. It's a home game, so I'm rolling with Valley. I think Valley by 6. That's the only. Otherwise, this game is a complete toss-up.
Valley by 6. It might just be by 6 too. That's funny.
But does that say more about like Valley, or does it say a lot about Alcorn that they haven't been convincing in any game they played so far? That lets you know, hey, like this Alcorn team deserves to be considered one of the best teams in the SWAC.
Well, to me,
go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, to me, it seems like, I mean, you can just look at the opponents that Alcorn has played, and it's just been ugly outside of Edward Waters. And I mean, granted, you're supposed to be Edward Waters, and they did that. But right now, I think what is so frustrating about what Alcorn isn't able to do is the things they were doing under Fred McNair. And that's like Flood said, they were a very disciplined squad. And basically, Fred McNair should still be the coach, or they should have gotten maybe a more Fred McNair-esque replacement for Fred McNair. You know what I'm saying? So right now, the only reason I'm picking Alcorn is just because Valley's been down for so long. But as Flood said, this is their first home game with the new turf and the new scoreboard. And those are things that can help turn a program around. I mean, granted, if the names Jerry Rice and Willie Satellite Totten being on the stadium don't move folks, then I mean that's a symptom of a larger problem. But yeah, shout out to Ruben. He said I had a hard time believing Alcorn would roll immediately without Fred. Yeah, Coach McNair is one of those coaches that comes along once in a blue moon. So there's just nothing about. I mean, yeah, Coach McNair once in a blue moon. Yeah, I can hear myself in Flood's laptop or whatever. But I think it's just they moved on too soon. They should have done everything they could to keep Fred McNair. But when Coach McNair did that interview and said that he had some sleepless nights because he was unhappy at his alma mater. If you this is supposed to be your dream job and your dream job turns into a nightmare, then that's a symptom of a administrative problem. If this is supposed to be your dream job and your dream. Yeah.
Go ahead. Just fight through it, Chris. We got you.
All right, but yeah, just that's a symptom of administrative issues. So they've got to figure out what it is they're going to need to put behind this football program to make it successful again. And maybe that's not Cedric Thomas's fault, but you cannot throw your players under the bus like that. Talking about guys need to grow up. You're the coach. You're supposed to make them grow up. You're supposed to lead and guide these young men to the ways of maturity instead of calling them immature.
So check this out. This is what the lineup is for Alcorn the rest of the way. They got Valley this weekend. Then the following weekend, they've got UAPB. Then this is where the schedule. This is then they're going into the West. Grambling, Southern, Alabama State, Texas Southern, PV, Jackson State. And when you put in consideration the struggles that we've witnessed from them up to this point, granted, it's been primarily against non-conference opponents. It does leave one to wonder, given how things pan out when it's all said and done, did Fred McNair manage to over-succeed or overachieve given what he had to work with during his time when he was there? I just find this kind of fascinating, and that here we are at this point of the season, still early, and yet Coach Thomas is kind of, for all intents and purposes, throwing his players under the bus, and it's a pretty interesting dynamic.
Yeah, but like you would think, because he was a DC under McNair and they were good on defense, you would think the transition would have been very easy to step into their role, but apparently he also mentioned on Monday that they got coaches who had to be shuffled around and now have different responsibilities and new responsibilities because of the coaching change at the top, which could contribute to some of their struggles. But you would think it would be a seamless transition with everybody familiar with each other, but apparently that ain't been the case. And I don't see how it helps to call out players like that. But he knows this team better than we do. But yeah, Alcorn State season probably on the line on Saturday. I don't think they're gonna lose the game, but you don't want to get off to a bad start the first weekend of conference play and try to bounce back. I mean, Prairie, we talked about it earlier. They're in a hole already, and you don't want to fall any further behind if you're Alcorn State either. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty interesting to see how they play on Saturday.
Flood, I know you got a hard stop, man. But any closing thoughts with respect to Alcorn State and Mississippi Valley?
Like I said, I think Valley wins the game because it's on their home teams, and Alcorn is struggling. And if they don't get Alcorn now, then it's not likely that Valley's going unless they play Bethune-Cookman. So I think this is an opportunity for Valley, and I think they.
You were delayed. I just realized what you said, man. But go ahead. And they don't play Bethune-Cookman. So
yeah.
Actually, they do. They're in the swag. They do. They're in the swag East.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Oh, you said? Oh, you talking about Valley? Or you talking about Alcorn?
Valley.
Oh, Valley. Okay, right. Okay.
I said Valley.
About Alcorn. Okay.
Valley. Yeah. So I think Valley is. I think Valley gets. Like I said, and if they don't, this is their best opportunity to get a win until they play Bethune-Cookman. So I think Valley holds the home field there.
All right.
Yeah, Reggie.
So
Before you go, one quick thing, Reggie. Before you
I
go,
watched they go
your
and
impressions. Your
get beat
impressions
by
of Southern.
70.
Oh, yeah, Reggie. Yeah, Reggie. Before you go, your impressions of Southern the first 4 weeks of the season. What you seen from Terrence Graves and how he's handled the football team so far.
It's pretty much the last game they played is pretty much of the season. The first half of that game, they looked like a little league, pee wee league team that couldn't. The second half, they come out and look like a championship caliber team. I don't know what this team is going to be. I think the week off comes at the right time for them. They have a tough opponent in Nicholls State coming into Mumford the following week after this bye week. So
I'll be at that game,
is
by the
still
way.
in the air, man.
I will be at that game, by the way.
Good looking out. Good, glad you.
So hopefully we can hook up.
You will be fed well, and you will have a good.
And I will not be wearing a light blue blazer either.
Definitely have to wear the light blue blazer.
You got to wear the light blue blazer.
You definitely
Ken.
have to.
Got to now.
You have to wear.
Got to now.
And when you get in the game, we have to take a video of you saying, "And this is this."
All right, Flood. Look, man, we're gonna let you go, brother. I know we have technical difficulties, but we'll see you next time. We appreciate your time, brother.
All right, appreciate you.
All right,
Thanks, Reggie.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Ken, you got to wear a blue blazer, man.
I am not wearing a damn light blue blazer to a damn Southern game. Come on, man.
I mean, you kind of like fit the aesthetic, man.
Okay.
The blue blazer fits the aesthetic.
No, I'm going to be there on some other business, so I'll just happen to be in Baton Rouge that weekend, and I'll be able to partake Southern and Nicholls. I have not been to A.W. Mumford Stadium for a regular season football game since I was a student in college at Grambling, and it just so happens I went there that year. That may have been like maybe 88, I believe, 88. And I think that year they actually played Nicholls for homecoming. So I'm actually looking forward to it. I hadn't been to a regular season game at Mumford in a very long time, but hell no, I will not be wearing a damn light blue blazer. Anyway.
He's so serious.
I think you should, Ken. Have fun. Yeah, but so we're gonna transition to our it's a sports topic, but it's a non-black color sports topic. It was actually suggested by Chris.
Yeah,
and we're going to talk about
what we do on Wednesdays, by the way, folks.
Yes, we do on Wednesday.
We
kind of veer off a little bit,
right?
But so right now the WNBA playoffs are going on. The round one, the game tonight, Indiana Fever against Connecticut Sun. Connecticut can close out the series with a win tonight. I don't know what time that game's coming on or what the score is.
It's on now.
Is it on now? Okay,
it's on now. Connecticut is winning 57-50.
Okay. Connecticut's up 57-50.
Second quarter? Third quarter.
Okay, and so there was some controversy to come out of that game. So Dejanay Carrington, the great point guard for Connecticut Sun, she going for the ball, hit Caitlin Clark accidentally in the face, and Caitlin Clark rolled around as she had been shot on the floor like a brawn. Anyway, but yeah, she ended up with a shiner on her eye. And she didn't make a big deal about it after the game. She was like, oh, it's just basketball, whatever. But the Caitlin Clark stands and the new WNBA fans and the racists and the trolls all came out against Dejanay Carrington and said some pretty harsh things to her on social media. This is what happened, by the way.
Oh,
yeah, going for the ball and accidentally hit her in the eye.
Kendrick, before you get into it, I want to say what's the word for it? Trigger warning.
Yeah.
Trigger warning. Trigger warning. So yeah, leading up to the game tonight, Dejanay Carrington posted on her Instagram a message sent from this disgruntled Caitlin Clark fan or someone who purports themselves to be this message that we have blurred out called her worthless.
Real quick, I'm sorry, interrupt you again, Kendrick. Let me just get this out there. This is way off subject, but let me just say this. We appreciate you folks watching us right now on Twitter. If you would, though, would you be so kind as to go over to the HBCU Sports YouTube channel and subscribe? Just do that. Do that for us, and we would greatly appreciate it. All right. So go ahead, Kendrick. Sorry.
All right, cool. Yeah, so yeah, this is the message DJ Nate Carrington posted on our Instagram page today, where some anonymous person called her out her name and wished ill upon her. And here's a quote. She says, "Can't make this up. Sent to my email. Y'all need Jesus for real," she says. Yeah, so this is unfortunate. All season long, since WNBA has got a lot of attention because of the rookie class led by Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and others, there's been a lot more interest in the women's game. And with that comes new people. Some have been very good, and some, like this person here who messaged DJ Nate Carrington, have been very, very bad. They've been on social media trolling players, namely Black players on social media, death threats, wishing them to be harmed, all because of their standum of Caitlin Clark. And I'm going to turn to the panel now and ask Jared and Chris, who also follow WNBA very closely, their thoughts about this incident here with DJ Nate Carrington and just overall how WNBA has not handled this situation very well in terms of like fan engagement with players. So Chris, you up first.
Okay. I want you to listen to me and listen to me closely. I'm not going to raise my voice. I'm not going to curse because I can't, because not only do we have SEC regulations, we have Ken Rashad regulations, and I want to, keep his good name in his platform intact. So I'm going to use clean words, but I'm going to say this and be very clear about it. There's a lot of dirty hands. There's blood on a lot of hands with this whole Caitlin Clark situation. And one person that really needs to be ashamed for how they handled this is, of course, the WNBA commissioner, Kathy Engelbert. She went on a media show, and the host asked her about the beef or whatever between Caitlin's fans and Angel Reese fans, and how racism, misogyny, sexism, and homophobia all factor into that. And the only thing that this woman could say with her dress barn blazers and her 1980s shoulder pads was that this is good for the game. So is a young woman, and granted, people already have problems with DJ Nate Carrington anyway because of her glam. There have been people suggesting that she taped her fingernails up before playing a game because they said she stabbed Caitlin Clark in the eye with one of her nails or whatever. So this is a young woman who is very much, everything that Caitlin Clark fans hate. Young, Black, talented, and outspoken. And let's not forget, she's dating a player from the Indiana Fever. Her and Alyssa Smith have been in a relationship for just about 2 years. So people are already saying, Fever fans have already got this cooked up conspiracy theory that Alyssa isn't playing hard enough because she's throwing the game for her boo or whatever. This is whatever these morons are saying. But this is Kathy Engelbert's fault. And this is two HBCU alumni who have I'm not going to say they brought shame to their institutions, but their institutions really need to check, about them degrees. And I'm talking about Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp. No one should have allowed those two anywhere near the WNBA. And Stephen A. is someone that I respected for a long time. Quick story. When I was a young journalist, I attended a convention in DC called the Unity Journalism Convention, summer 2004. I wasn't even sure I wanted to stay in college because it was just getting to be too much. And as much as I love journalism, the college work was just bearing me down. I was actually this close to quitting college. So I ran to Stephen A. in the hallway and I said, I'm really worried about, I want to be a sports writer, but I don't know what I'm going to be able to do about college, if I can see this through or not. He stopped me and said, follow your heart, because anything else is just a job. And you don't want to have just a job. You want to be able to have something that you love doing, you love going to work and doing every day. So that kept me in journalism. So Stephen A. Smith is largely responsible for me having a 20 plus year career in his business. But the Stephen A. Smith in 2024 is totally different from 2004. Like, I don't know who this dude is. And this dude who swears that he gives women opportunities but only focuses on one WNBA player is not what he appears to be, what he used to be. And it's very disappointing. And Shannon, meanwhile, I don't know about you. And I've talked about this on my personal YouTube, so I'm not going to go get too deep into it. But I don't think any of us should be paying attention to a 56-year-old man who is staging sex tapes on Instagram. Let me make that clear. Because there are better things to do to hawk your blue pills, your blue chew, or whatever it is, than swearing that you hit Instagram on accident and uploaded someone else's your intimate moment with somebody else. So why are we listening to him about anything, let alone the WNBA? So there are a lot of people to blame for this. And yes, the Clark stands are fake. Let's be clear about it. They're the best representation of bots on Elon Musk's Twitter that I can imagine. Because a lot of these accounts, if people would just be wise, I know it's cool to dunk on people. I know it's cool to clap back. But if you see an account that started in 2024 or after March of 2023, ignore it, please. These are people who literally have just joined social media to be jerks. And granted, NBA Twitter was always going to be, a side project, a side effect of the WNBA's growth. Which, mind you, let me remind you guys, the WNBA experienced an increase in attendance and ratings each of the last 3 years, 2021, 2022, 2023, before Caitlin Clark joined the Indiana Fever. So the WNBA was not a dying league. The WNBA was not in this great financial despair as a lot of these trolls claim. None of that is true. The league was doing fine before Caitlin came along. And this isn't to knock Caitlin Clark, because she's talented. Nobody's denying it. She has court vision that reminds me of Magic. She tries to shoot like Steph, but she's got to learn to pick her spots better like Steph does. But she's absolutely the real deal. But this is less about Caitlin Clark than it is about people wanting to punch down on Black and gay women who make up the majority of the WNBA. And those are the facts. So it's so much to be disappointed about, and there's so many people to take issue with, but I think Caitlin Clark is the least of those people. The girl is just trying to play basketball. Unfortunately, she just brought a whole bunch of weirdos with her.
Yeah, Jared, your thoughts on this? You've been pretty adamant that you don't like Caitlin Clark fans at all. So what do you kind of make of this latest situation involving people associated with her?
Can we please put that message back up? Can we put that message back up, please? Because I'm sorry. I've been a sports fan for virtually all my life. Hold on, before I start, let me just preface. I'm about to be all over the place because there's so many things that go through my mind when I see disgusting things like this. And for those who have not seen this, the actual unedited version of that is on her IG story. So through your own discretion, if you want to know what it actually says, go to it. But just to let you know, trigger warning for what you are going to see if you look up that message. It has also made the rounds on Twitter as well. I've been a sports fan for all my life, and I've never seen such disgusting vitriol to athletes in my life. Granted, there have been athletes that have been scrutinized for their play on the field. There have been players that have received death threats for making mistakes on the field. And that I'm not here to say that that was as wrong as what I have seen now. But the things that have been publicized, that players have said, that fans have told them from fans who are new to the sport, it is ridiculous. And it just makes you sad. It just makes me sad to be to say that I'm a sports fan, and it makes me not want to watch, because it's just like, it's such a toxic culture, and not just the WNBA, but in sports in general. Sports is supposed to be our escape from the negativity. It's supposed to be our escape from the misogyny. It's supposed to be our escape from that. And it's turned into a safe haven for it. It's turned into a place where it's been accepted. It's supposed to be a place where it is normalized. And it's so disappointing. What would make you say something like that to somebody who has not done anything to offend you in any way personally? Someone that you don't know, somebody that if they walk past you or down the street, they would not know who you were. What would make you say something to somebody like that? That is disgusting. All of us have women in our family. What if somebody said that to one of our family members? What if somebody said that to your family member? Whatever happened to treat people the way that you want to be treated? It's one thing if somebody offended you personally and they drove you to this point. This is somebody that you don't even know personally. This is somebody that you just saw somebody do something on a basketball court and you thought that it was acceptable to say this. That is not okay. Just because something is normalized doesn't mean it's normal. Nothing about that is normal. Nothing about saying that you want to see somebody be, and I don't want to say what it said because we blurred out, but saying that you want some harm to come to somebody because they accidentally did something to somebody that you like on a basketball court. Also, that you don't even know. Also, you don't know Caitlin Clark and she don't know you. So why are you defending her in this way? It is so disgusting. It is so disgusting that the social media has allowed people to have a voice to say whatever they want, and they know nobody is going to check them about it. They know they're not going to have any consequences by it because they put up a profile picture that is not of their face because they're ashamed of the person that they are inside. That's why you can't put your actual profile picture on there. It's because you are ashamed of the person you are inside and you're scared to be yourself. And you hide behind a faceless picture to say whatever you want, knowing that nobody's going to check you about it. Knowing that if we walk past you across the street, we wouldn't know that it was you that said that. It's disgusting and it's deplorable, and it's something has to be done about it. I don't know what it is, but something has to be done about it. And somebody has to care. Somebody in the media has to care. We all talk about all the hate that Caitlin Clark is getting, but we're not talking about the death threats. We're not talking about the people who are wishing abuse on somebody just because of something they did on a basketball court. We're talking about somebody getting physically assaulted on a play where she's just trying to get a steal. Any little thing that happens to Caitlin Clark is a news story, but we don't talk about the accomplishments of the players who are doing great things on this court. A'ja Wilson just scored 1,000 points, the first person to ever score 1,000 points in a WNBA game. In the WNBA season. Angel Reese set the double record. We don't talk about that. Diana Taurasi, her legendary career could potentially come to an end soon. We're not talking about that. We don't talk about all the great pioneers that have come before Caitlin Clark. We don't talk about Lisa Leslie. We don't talk about Cynthia Cooper. We don't talk about Yolanda Griffith. We don't talk about Candace Parker. We don't talk about the greats who allowed Caitlin Clark to have a career by holding this league up and uplifting women in the way that they do. We're talking about minor stuff that Caitlin Clark had happened to her, that she has even said is not that big of a deal and let's move on. But we call these women criminals and we call them haters because they did things accidentally. Has she had some flagrant fouls done to her? Sure. But in the grand scheme of things, it was a basketball play. What about this message is basketball related? What about this is sports related? We are all human beings at the end of the day. The only difference is they're on TV more than us. We got to stop treating these celebrities and these famous people, these public figures, like they're not human beings. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to
You know what?
comment right here.
That's kind of hard to follow. What's this? CC has to do.
It's like a Taylor's. Yeah, because
most of those
she
so-called fans are going to leave her high and dry.
Yeah, because when Taylor Swift did that childless cat lady post on Instagram that saying that she was endorsing Kamala Harris, Caitlin Clark like that tweet, and people were like, "Oh, I'm not a fan anymore."
That's all it took.
Mm-hmm.
That just lets you know it ain't got nothing to do with sports.
Not a damn thing.
Not a doggone thing.
And like Caitlin Clark has like,
they want to push an agenda. That's all they want to do.
Yeah, and Caitlin Clark has spoken out against like the treatment of players on social media. She did it earlier this season when she was asked about her name being used to promote racism and misogyny, and she denounced that. And she even did it following the famous LSU Iowa game in 2022 when everybody was jumping on Angel Reese for what transpired at the end of that game. So yeah, I mean, like, unfortunately, Jared and everybody else, like, it's hard to control Twitter. Elon Musk owns Twitter, and he does not have any thoughts at all about controlling it to make it a safe haven for responsible people. It's more becoming a safe haven, like you said, for hatred and racism and divisiveness. So we can be angry, they could be angry, but nothing's being done to stop all this. And unfortunately, it's hard to control. So the players are going to have to either ignore it, unfortunately, or they're just going to have to, unfortunately, deal with it too. I mean, because like they're put in a really bad spot, and I don't think that anybody can do anything to control what people say on social media or what they do to email you. So it's tough all the way around.
Just one more.
So
Can you go ahead?
Let me. Go ahead, Jared. Go ahead.
I just want to add one more thing that I want to preface everything that I just said, that I've been to a Mystics game where they played the Indiana Fever, and I've met some Indiana Fever fans in person, and there are a lot of great people that are Caitlin Clark fans. They are unfortunately overshadowed by a lot of bad bugs. So I just want to put that out there, that I want to also say that I don't blame this on Caitlin Clark, and nobody should blame this on Caitlin Clark. She has said that she has denounced this, and that she said that she does not agree with people who do stuff like that. So I just want to put that message out there. This is about people who are not who treat people like they are not human beings. Not about Caitlin Clark, and it's not about the few good, the actual good fans that overshadow the few bad apples. Sorry, go ahead, Ken.
No, I just want to say, so you guys saw that play, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it safe to, can we all agree that clearly she wasn't trying to poke Caitlin Clark? It wasn't done purposely. She was trying to make a play on the ball. We can agree on that, right?
Of course.
So let me tell you what, and I'm gonna just take it a step further, because everything that you guys said about the reaction on social media, fans who don't even know Caitlin Clark and who don't know any of these players, and they're just simply going by based on what they heard someone else say, or that they see what someone else is tweeting or what someone else is doing on social media. They feel the need, because they can hide behind an alias, to just go ahead and say whatever they want to say. But I will say this, because the media, mainstream media, has a role to play in this as well.
Oh yeah.
Because we saw that play. I saw it. And I saw it, and I really didn't think a whole lot of it. Didn't think anything of it. Person made the play on the ball. Yes, she got a black eye, whatever the case may be, and not taking anything away from Caitlin Clark, because she even made it clear, she didn't do it on purpose, and she was just making a play on the ball. Caitlin even agreed with that. But I'm gonna tell you what really pissed me off, because she has a tendency to be kind of like, I can take her or leave her, but Christine Brennan went up to her and asked, did you really make a play, or did you really try to poke Caitlin Clark in the eye? And she was like, I didn't even know I poked her in the eye. And her answer was as genuine as I think it really could. She was like, I didn't even know I was making a play on the ball. I didn't even realize I'd hit her. She was literally trying to make a play on the ball. And then she goes on to say something along the lines because she saw her talking with someone on the bench and they were laughing, as if to imply that they were laughing about Caitlin Clark. And I'm like, damn, how do you conclude that? And why would you ask that question? Christine Brennan, as far as I'm concerned, is just as culpable as everyone else because she made it an issue when it didn't have to be one.
Yeah.
That's where it started. At least I saw that tweet. You know, I asked Dejanay about this, and this is what her response was. As far as I was concerned, it was a non-question. You didn't have to ask. People get poked in the eye. People make plays on the balls all the time. You know, men and women, they get scratches, they get nicks. I mean, we've seen the controversies. Person going for a three-pointer, and a player steps under them, and because of the potential injury. I mean, okay, we've seen that, but dude, there was no way, there was nothing to indicate that play was done intentionally, especially when you put in consideration everything that's on the line. It's a playoff game, and you got everybody watching you. Why would she want that to come up on her? Like she said, what motivation do I have to poke her in the eye? Think about that. You're playing basketball, you want to purposely poke somebody in the eye? And Christine Brennan, you had the audacity to really ask that question? I mean, you were serious about it too. It wasn't even a lighthearted question. And when she gave you an answer, go back. I don't know if you guys seen it. Go and look at that clip. She really thought she was doing some reporting. So as far as I'm concerned, the media and look, I get it. We get heat here at HBCU Sports because you guys accuse us of the same thing sometimes, and you're more than justified in doing so. It comes with the territory. But and for the most part, I tend to defend reporters in this space when they ask certain questions that I understand most people don't, I'm like, why did I understand why she asked that question. It was a fair question. Or I understand why the reporter asked that question. It was a fair question. But that question, there was no need to ask that question. There was nothing to that play. And for you to you asked it once and then you followed up by trying to imply that her and whoever it was that she was talking to or sitting with on the bench were actually laughing about that play. I mean, come on, man. So it's mainstream media outlets have a role to play in this as well.
I'm going to say this really quickly, and I'm going to let Kendrick, because I think we're all ready to go here. Two things. Number one, Christine Brennan is writing a book about Caitlin Clark. That's where it starts.
Okay. See, I didn't know that.
That's where it starts. And because we are Black people and we are in a company of Black people, I don't have a problem saying this. White women hate Black women and will do anything to undermine whatever it is they're trying to do, positive or otherwise. I mean, we've seen people, already question Kamala Harris's chops to run for president or whatever, but no other reporter would ask that question other than Christine Brennan, because Christine Brennan has a book to sell and an axe to grind. And asking a young Black woman, she thought she was going to trip Dejanay up, but Dejanay Carrington studied communications at Stanford, also studied African American history at Baylor. So she has 2 degrees from 2 very highfalutin institutions, as it were. She's a smart young woman. You're not going to trip Dejanay Carrington up. And that whole thing about her laughing, and they tried to get Angel Reese with the same thing when when Caitlin got bumped by Kennedy Carter early in the season. So this has just been building and building and building. And Ken is absolutely correct. Yes, we can get mad at the troglodytes online that are getting away with these shenanigans, but they're only doing what the media has put in their minds.
Yeah, as someone who actually covered the WNBA or one WNBA team, the Tulsa Shock, before they moved to Dallas to become the Wings back in the day, when I used to go to those games in Tulsa, like, it was fun. Like, you see kids there, you see families there. It was like it was an inclusive environment. And now, like, many years later, you see at least the conversations on social media, like Jared said, be very, very toxic, and people trying to push narratives and their own agenda, pitting fan bases against each other, players against each other. I'm like, this is not how you grow the game. Like, yeah, more people are watching, more people are talking about it, but like, this is a very poor way to promote and grow the game you want to get more attention to. And I just think it's sad, man, because like Jared said, like, it's not fun watching these games no more, man. Like, it used to be fun to watch WNBA games. I was really excited about the rookie class coming in this year, seeing them perform and grow. But now I can't wait till the season over because it's just been too much. Seriously, like every week is something. It's some Twitter space going mad at Cheryl Swoops. It's some commentary like Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Stark.
Yeah, that's
just
crazy.
talking like off the wall about stuff. Jason Whitlock. I don't want to mention him too much,
start.
but like,
stop.
Yeah, he posted something about Caitlin Clark was attached. I'm like, what? For being poked in the eye in a playoff game? No, like it's just much too much. Like I just wish there were more fans out there who like, and they are. We're talking about a really small segment of people here, but like I wish the small segment of people didn't like overwhelm everybody else and control the narrative. But it's just a shame. It's a real shame. This has happened to what is really supposed to be something positive in an era in WNBA basketball that's we hope is going to lead it to the next level that it deserves to be on. But like, yeah, this all just got to stop, man. Seriously, it's got to stop. Yeah, can't say the thing at the end you say about promoting the website and all this stuff.
Before we log off, take a moment to become a level 1, level 2, or level 3 subscriber. We could really use your support, and your donation, as little as $4.99 a month, will go a long ways in helping us to support the channel and to pay these gentlemen for the tremendous work that they do. We thank all of you for watching, especially those of you on Twitter, those of you on Facebook and on YouTube as well. I'm Ken Rashad. He's Chris Stevens. He's Kendrick Marshall. He's Jared Hoffman. Until next time, God bless you. And we will see you next time. Go Tigers.